Well, in the wake of our reporting last week, the White House announced it is pursuing a revocation of security clearances for John Brennan and other former intelligence officials.
Not only is the president looking to take away Brennan's security clearance, he's also looking into the clearances of Comey, Clapper, Hayden, Rice, and McCabe. The president is exploring the mechanisms to remove security clearance because they've politicized and in some cases monetized their public service and security clearances.
Just minutes later, Jim Clapper, who is a liar, complained that this is all deeply unfair because he has a right to a security clearance. You can't take it away. Here he is on CNN.
This is kind of a petty way of retribution, I suppose, for speaking out against the president, which I think are on the part of all of us are born out of genuine concerns about President Trump.
Congressman Raul Labrador is a Republican. He represents the great state of Idaho, and he joins us tonight. Congressman, why do these guys have security clearances in the first place, and why do they feel entitled to have them?
That's a great question. So there's two issues that we have to address first. Is why do they have the security clearance at this time? And the reason they have it is in the past we have always extended it to people who worked in these kinds of positions because they were of benefit to the government. Not because they were a benefit to themselves, but because the government could use their assistance during a transition or anything like that. Clearly, they're not benefiting the government right now. They're not benefiting this administration. But the second question, especially when you talk about Clapper and some of these other individuals, they have been found to lie to Congress. So it's interesting to me, why do they even have this extended security clearance?
I agree.
When they have already lied to the American people and they have lied to the institutions that represent the American people.
Well, Clapper flat out lied to the Congress, and I don't understand why you all didn't hold him in contempt or prosecute him. What he did seems to me to be illegal. But leaving that aside, these guys work for cable news networks. I mean, they're much like I am. They are paid to talk on television. Wouldn't that disqualify them right there? Or do I get a security clearance too? And what are the rules here exactly?
That's a terrific question. So, like I said earlier, they have the security clearance to benefit the government. The moment that they start receiving money for the information that they have, the moment that they start monetizing the information that they have received from the government, they should no longer have the security clearance. And it's something that in this new age where we have cable news, where you have people moving from government to TV, is something that we need to rethink about extending these security clearances. I don't think they should be done automatically like we have done in the past with these high offices.
Yeah, I don't know why we would do it at all. I mean, Brennan is clearly unhinged. He's a political extremist. Isn't the point of the intel agencies to inform the executives so that he can make foreign policy decisions? Is there another reason we have these agencies? I thought that was their charter.
That is the only point that they have the security clearance, and that's why in the past we have extended security clearances to people who had high office, these security clearances in previous administrations, because they were helping the new administration with the information that they needed to receive. They were maybe instructing their replacements. They were working with them. But right now it's clearly that they have decided to be partisan. They have decided to become unhinged in many instances. To accuse the President of the United States of actual treason is something that needs to be really reconsidered, and we need to start thinking about why this individual has this high security clearance.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if the deep state thing is real, but I can promise you the fact these guys have security clearances convincing half the country that it's real is bad just for that, I think. Anyway, Congressman, thank you very much.
Thank you.
President Trump now mulling a move to scrap the security clearances of top Obama-era officials after a tweet from Senator Rand Paul accusing former CIA Director John Brennan of politicizing and monetizing his position.
I think there's a great danger to having talking heads on TV who are ex-CIA agents and still have classified clearance. There's a real danger that they might inadvertently reveal classified information. And, you know, John Brennan's got a history of this.
Joining me now with reaction to this is former CIA operative Mike Baker. Mike, thanks for coming on. You listen to Rand Paul there. He makes a pretty good point that sounds logical. But when you look at this list of the 6 people that the president wants to maybe take away that clearance from, you see a lot of his worst enemies on there. And that makes people think that this is political.
Well, yeah, it certainly appears that way. It looks at, you know, and like this, we're in uncharted territory here on both sides. We've never really seen this sort of public animosity and criticism from former heads of the intel community. John Brennan, as an example, former director from the agency, a tremendous experience, right? But the fact that he's been out there and so vocal is very unusual, extremely unusual. And obviously you've got Director Comey, McCabe, both of whom, you know, I believe, we can confirm this, but I believe don't have their security clearances anymore. So this appears to be something that was fired off without a lot of thought to it. So it does appear to be vindictive on his part. Look, security clearances, you've got, what, some 4 million people out there with security clearances, a few over 1 million that have top secret clearances. And there's a cottage industry in Washington, D.C. of people who leave the government, retain their clearances, and then use that as a hiring element, an attractive point for commercial companies to hire them, bring them in. They don't have to then front the cost and the time of sponsoring somebody for their clearances.
Right.
But at that level, this is a different game. This is a much different situation. So we really are, again, in uncharted territory.
Well, that's where the criticism comes from. Why not just make this about all 1 million of those people with the top secret clearance? Why just these 6? I will say that I think a lot of people found when James Comey, who wrote the book, after he got out, that seemed a little bit like that's almost directly profiting from what you went through and what you had gone through. But he's a moot point. He doesn't have it anyways. Right. The question becomes, these people, are they being paid by these networks to talk? Are they being paid for their experience, or are they being paid for their current access? And I think that's where it gets a little murky, right? Whether or not they're being paid for what they know or what they could learn right now.
Yeah, I mean, my experience is frankly that they're getting paid for their reputation, right? For their title. And so if you have someone coming out who was a former director, that's the attractiveness. Look, the argument sometimes is that we want them to retain their clearances at that level, that senior level, because then they can act as sort of pseudo mentors or advisors to the incoming security or intel leaders. Sure. And, you know, in reality, that doesn't really happen, and that tends to be a one-way conversation anyway. They're not sharing, that current administration is not sharing details with former leaders. So it really is a matter of reputation these people get hired for. And also, you know, you talk about a network. They go on to the network. These people are very experienced. You know, they're not passing classified information, or I don't think that's a danger. I really do think this was something. It's interesting that Rand Paul, you know, wanted to bring this up. I think it's much like other situations coming out of the administration. It's unusual messaging, and the messaging is what drives, you know, sort of this anger from the other side. Look, they could have just simply said internally, all right, you know, yes, we're displeased with the way these people are talking. People have the right to talk. Maybe when it comes time for these clearances to expire, we just won't renew them. That has happened all the time. Yeah. So, again, I think it's a messaging issue from the administration.
I think it all spurred from that comment from Brennan, you know, talking about how Trump was traitorous after that meeting in Helsinki. I think that's what really brought it on. It sounds like that's what Rand Paul was trying to get at. Thank you, Mike Baker, for coming on this morning. We appreciate your time.